Everybody, welcome once again on stage of the ADAC Sim Racing Expo. My name is Matt, and we're heading into the next panel, When Your Hobby Turns Into Your Job. I'm super happy to introduce you to some guys who made their dreams come true, actually, or not. We will figure that out now. Please welcome on stage from Low Fuel Motorsports, Boris, Nils Naujoks from BMW Sim Racing. Then we have Andrej from Rennwelten and Steve from SimGrid. Hey guys, yes, just please take a seat, take a seat, take a seat. We have 4 of you and we have 3 seats. That's going to be funny. I'll get you one more seat from over here, I guess. Up. All you need is a strong host. Okay, here you go, Steve. That fine by you? Have a seat. Good. Breathe. Is everybody fine? Yes?
I guess, yes.
Okay. First of all, guys, please make sure that you speak right into the microphone so that everybody can understand you, also everybody in the stream. Yeah, please do us the honor to introduce yourself so that everybody knows who you are, because there's always some new faces to the whole game, and probably not everybody might know who you are and what you're doing. Perhaps you want to start right here?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm Andrej, CEO from Rennwelten, and we started as a community, or at least we are still a community.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of sim racing, leagues, series. And on the other hand, we are trying to connect it with real motorsports. Mm-hmm. So we are located on a racetrack, which we can use. We have normal cars, and we try to bridge sim racing and real racing. This is my job.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, I'm Nils Naujoks. It's awfully loud to hear myself, but anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a BMW sim racer, first and foremost, I guess, but I'm also working for an agency who's doing a lot in sim racing, which is a VCO. So we're hosting races, we are giving away the Simi. There's so much stuff that I probably can't recall it all. And then I've been running a team, the Rappe Racing esports team, while I was in G2 in the last couple of years. So I've taken a couple routes, and now I've kind of founded my own little company around telemetry and setups in sim racing.
Wow, okay, sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I'm Boris, I'm the CEO of Low Fuel Motorsport, a competitive sim racing platform with daily racing and rating system for ACC and R-Factor 2. And yeah, lately it turned out that this will be my job.
Sometimes it happens so fast. Okay, Steve, please.
Hi, yeah, I'm Steve Hood. I've recently joined SimGrid, which is in the same space as Boris and LFM. I've been in the industry now for maybe 25 years, made video games, worked on lots of different platforms, avid sim racer, love the space, and yeah, with SimGrid, it's a platform for the community that we're trying to increase the numbers of people in sim racing, and delighted to be here.
Good to have you all here. Yeah, I think we skipped the part where I ask you if you have been to the Christmas market and stuff. Like, we can discuss that later. But it sounds like, or I mentioned in the introduction that you seem to be some guys who are living their dream because of like making their hobby to their jobs. But in Germany we say, es ist nicht alles Gold, was glänzt. Sometimes it's not as nice as it seems. Perhaps we can dive into this a little bit. So, when hobby turns into jobs, like sometimes work doesn't feel like work, it feels still like very playful and hobby. When was the point that you realized, oh, now it's a job, and did you like it or not? What would you say?
What did I say? Okay. It's still a job, and yeah, there are moments where it's not that funny, but in the end, it's a cool thing. It was a decision we made because we had as a customer a classic sports car team, and they couldn't start because of Corona. And so I was in normal motorsport marketing, and we said, okay, we got to do something for the sponsors, so let's do some sim racing. And this really was the first contact for sim racing was me. And then I watched the first race, and I said, ooh, that's way cooler than the normal one. And it was a 24-hour race, and like we finished as a team P3, when I remember correctly, with 0.011 seconds. And it was like, wow, amazing. Couldn't sleep. Said, this is not just bridging and waiting for normal times to come back, but there's got to be more. So like 2 years ago, we made the decision and said, okay, let's do the sim racing and go explicitly not into the pro part. I think there are enough guys doing pro stuff, and me, myself, I'm an absolute not talented sim racer, talent-free. But we decided to, let's do it for people, let's do an AM community and bridge real racing and digital racing. As for me, in Germany we say Rennsport, and there is no difference. And for me, there should be no difference between which type of Rennsport. Yeah.
Okay.
So this pushed me into it.
And are there all right, I'll ask the next question later. I'll just pose it on or head on to you. So how does it feel for you?
I don't know. Describing the feelings are probably hard, so I'd rather go back in history a bit, which is just 3 years. I'm not as long in sim racing as Steve is, but I'm there for a long time, since probably early 2000s or so as a sim racer. And we couldn't really make ends meet back then, as you might have known. And especially when the financial crisis hit 2007-08, and until then I felt sim racing was having a small wave or something like that, but then all the marketing budget drained really quickly because the companies had to consolidate, and well, sim racing was on the very end of any chain. And so all the money left, and there wasn't really any opportunity back then, so I just did the normal way, go to school, study, did that stuff. And then in 2018, just through a friend, I came back into sim racing because he was running the G2 things, which had sim racing on the side, not really very serious. But there was the Race of Champions, the virtual edition. And I had a bit of spare time, qualified for it, went to Mexico. And yeah, I just kind of got back into the scene through that. And my friend there offered me a job because he couldn't handle the sim racing project on the side, and asked me if I wanted to run a sim racing team. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I kind of stumbled into that. Was the first 2 years, they went by very quickly. It was really interesting, learned a lot about all the people that are now there, and all the faces that I recognize now, I only really learned in the last 3 years or so. And then there are still some people around from 20 years ago who either came back or been here the whole time. But then you notice that if you really invest so much time in this, you need to make a living, especially when you're 30 plus of age or so, you're not living with your mom or your parents or whatever. You need a decent amount of money, and that's hard to get in sim racing. And that's probably the point where you sooner or later notice this is a proper job with a proper amount of workload if you really want to have enough money really from sim racing. So for me, it's driving, it's selling setups, it's coaching, it's having the job in an agency, probably forgetting a few things. But it all together is enough revenue streams to make for a decent wage, I guess. The question was about the moment where you noticed it was serious. Probably when you got the tax bill.
Okay, I get it. Does it come also with a lot of fear of not making enough money or something like that?
Currently not, but I guess there's always the feeling of it could drain again rather quickly. The hype could go elsewhere, could stop entirely. As we have seen here on the fair, all the hardware providers will see that there's a multitude of new hardware suppliers coming into the space, and some that have taken the revenue for granted the last couple of years because word of mouth, the money was just going their way. Suddenly, they face opposition, not just one, but 2, 3, 4, 5 suppliers of rims right now. I just need one. So all of those are trying to find people who buy them. So I guess they will all have similar thoughts of not knowing how long this can go well.
Okay. What's your perception?
Yeah, for me, to be honest, it was never the plan to make something in sim racing as a job. But it turned out rather quickly, because when we started the platform, I was developing and we started to get it online. People turned in, and it was growing so fast and got so big that it was not anymore possible to do it as a hobby alone, you know. And so I had to get some people in me helping, like stewarding for races and stuff. And so now we are at the point where it's so much work that you have to take the decision to do it as a job, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's how it is actually. But it's a dream, I would say. I mean, I did it already a second time because I was doing music before. Mm-hmm. When I was 19, 20 years old, I started DJing and producing. And I was learning a job, and after that, I was quitting the job and doing music. You know, my parents said, "You are crazy." but it worked out somehow, so I was doing that for 10 years, then I was going back to the job as a software developer, and now doing the same thing again with the platform stuff. So, yeah. I'm curious how it will work out.
It's super interesting. You seem to be somehow used to it, but at the same time, everything's new, right?
Yeah, of course. Because it's a different field of work, you know.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, how was it from your perspective?
For me, I heard a lot of the crazy when I started out as well. For me, actually, I was studying and training to become a lawyer at the time, but I played a lot of video games. I changed tracks completely because when I was starting out, I didn't really believe that you could have a career in this space. Mm-hmm. And now, to some extent, we take it for granted. But when I was starting out, I didn't know where these games or opportunities came from. People just arrived. But I played a lot of them. And actually, I grew up playing a game called, this shows how old I am, but it was Jeff Crammond's Grand Prix, Formula One game. Yeah. The old guys all know this one, right? And this is what caused me to get into the industry, because I thought, wait a minute. I've got that kind of character where I like to problem solve. I like these things. I spend far too many hours playing them. Could I actually have a career in this space? So I started applying everywhere. Yeah, I had no experience. I was doing something completely different. I had 1,000,001 interviews in London where I was growing up. Everybody said, you have no experience, there's no chance. But somebody did take a chance on me, and that led to an opportunity to get into the industry. And my big break was working on the first Formula One game at Sony when the PlayStation 2 came out back in the day. And that, for me, was the moment where, now I am living my dream. I got in. Everybody said you were mad to try it, but touch wood, I'm still around and still making games, still involved, and I love what I'm doing.
Obviously, like your eyes are sparkling and everything's nice, seems to be.
Yeah.
Whenever passion comes into it, we tend to work a lot, or even more than we would if we were just employed anywhere. So when was the first day that you realized, oh damn it, I worked 20 hours or something like that? Did you realize that already, or have you had something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot.
Tell the story, please.
I mean, as a developer, you know, your day never stops. That's the thing, because for example, if there is some bug coming up, if something is not working, so you have to fix it until it's working. And you cannot stop until, you cannot let it like, oh, I will do it tomorrow, so they cannot race, I don't care. That's not working. So yeah, I had this really often already, that I was starting at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, and was going at 2, 3 in the night, then to bed, and next day same.
Crazy.
So, yeah.
Whenever any of you has the feeling that you want to answer to that or have another question towards that, please go ahead, just do. It's only me asking the questions because I have them written down, but if there comes up something, please, let's make that a talk, right? So, if you're feeling like, do you have something, Steve?
Well, I've been on all sides of it, really, in terms of working the additional hours. And it's always a tricky subject today, because I've been on both sides where I've worked the extreme hours, because ultimately we're passionate about what we're doing. It's not just that we know that we have to deliver something, but there's a sense of professional pride in trying to deliver something in a timely fashion. And we've all been there. Like my biggest fear is in not delivering the kind of product that I myself would enjoy. So you tend to work really, really hard on these things, and you can burn yourself out. And I've also been on the other side where, in my more advanced years, I end up looking after the teams and running the teams, and then you care about the human nature of people burning themselves out, working too hard on features, because it is still a creative industry. There's still so many things that we have to solve. It's not always about putting so many hours in, but it's about putting the quality in as well, which is incredibly difficult. And as a team grows and you're part of it, you almost have to detach yourself from that. But I've still got that developer nature in me where I think I want to be there late night working on something as well, even though I know it's not to the benefit of everybody. And that my teams probably say to me, I wish he would take a back seat. We do it better than him now. But you know, we're all passionate developers, and we work too hard sometimes.
I can certainly not recommend trying to play too many roles at the same time because they all require their own amount of time, and you also face problems from several directions totally out of your control. And then the problem is that because it's entertainment industry, there's stuff happening in evenings or into the night or something like that. But then the normal jobs runs from 8, 9 in the morning or so, and then you very quickly end up doing 14 hours. And it's really tough to do a break in between, meet with friends, because they're working normal hours and you're always kind of off that cycle or out of sync with other people. So you end up working a lot.
Oh, I believe so.
Yeah, and in the end, I'm not. The question is not the right question for me because I was never had a classical job. So I was always been self-employed, and I started my agency in school. So for me, it was normal. I do not separate between private and work. Mm-hmm. So either the work fits into my private life too, with passions and everything else, or it's not my job. And
okay.
So it's basically the same. It's my life, my work, and my private life, and my family, and my friends, and all of that. But it still has to be one life and not separated. And so, in the end, I do not really care about how much hours I've been working, doing whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's the thing, because if you do something with passion and you love what you're doing, you don't care sometimes if you work 12, 14, 16 hours. If you have fun, you know. If you love what you're doing, it's fine.
And it's not work.
Yeah, for you it's not work. It doesn't feel like work. At the end, it is work, but it doesn't feel like.
Unless the tax bill comes in.
Let me then please put it the other way around. Would you say you're always on vacation because you love your job so much?
Everybody's smiling.
Probably a stretch.
I'd say no. For me, it doesn't feel like a permanent vacation. Whilst it is a dream job, and I would say for the vast majority of years and the vast majority of time, I've always had to pinch myself and say, this is pretty cool. I like what I'm doing. Even in the really hard times, you do appreciate that you're in a great position. But it is hard work. And for me, it doesn't feel like a vacation. Mm-hmm. My wife always says to me, we can never go on holiday anywhere for less than 2 weeks because it takes you the first week to get out of work mode and start to settle down. Yeah. So if we go away for 7 days, I am not on holiday mode. So I need to be pulled away from that. It is a difficult balance.
How's that for you? Other guys?
Holidays. Yes.
When was that?
We had a good. Corona had a good effect for us. As we bought a camper, and now can do work and travel like on a good level. So we're, I would say, 8 weeks a year. We're on the road and
good.
working from there.
Okay.
But that's again the same story. There is no difference between work and private.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I get it.
the problem is I'm a very lazy person and I'm a very social person, so I really love to chat with people.
Okay.
And that's what Steve said before. Like, you really have to concentrate and say, okay, now get to do a professional job and fill out this Excel or do this and that. And that's the harder part. And that's what I try not to do in my camper when I'm on holiday.
Good thing, though.
Yeah, holiday is hard to come by, really, because, there's so many roles for me. When you have to do the practice for the races, it takes a lot of time. Then there's the races scheduled out of your control. They're just going to happen at a certain point. You got to be there and practice before. It doesn't work when you're on holiday, right? As long as you're a sim racing driver, every time away from the rig gives you the perception of not failing, but missing out potential practice time.
Okay.
There's always a chance to find, or less, and we're operating at those margins. So I would say, probably to everyone, if you're thinking of making a career in sim racing, as a driver, you need more options because you can only do so many years as a driver. I'm I guess, lucky that I can still drive competitively at 35. But I'm pretty sure it's only going to be so many years until it's just not viable anymore because of the time investment you have to do as a driver, and because how it limits you, because you need to be on that rig. You can't put it in the... I mean, potentially you can put it in the camper.
You can.
Yeah, but it just makes things more complex, I guess. And so if you're looking for a career that's a little longer in sim racing, like Steve's or yours, and maybe yours soon, and maybe mine, you have to really think of actual business and not just being the driver. The drivers in sim racing are usually, again, end of the chain.
Yeah, seems to be like. We were not only talking about like you all kind of somehow stumbling into your jobs or accidentally getting into it, but also about the support of your friends and family. How important would you consider that to be? Like that you have like friends and a background that supports you in what you're doing? Yeah, who answers? Perhaps you.
Of course, it's very important. Even I would say the whole team around LFM and the guys behind already, they are sitting here, everybody.
Yay, give it up.
They are already close friends for me, and of course we all love the same thing what we are doing, and it's very important to get that support, even for everything what you are doing and what you are planning. So yeah, it's very, very important.
So
yeah, I'd say it is incredibly important, of course, because you sometimes doubt yourself when you're starting out or when you're working really hard, and you need that support to kind of, reinforce that understanding that you're heading in the right direction. When I started out and I had such a different career change, unfortunately everybody said to me, "What are you doing? Are you sure this is a good idea?" And that makes you doubt. That really makes you doubt. Of course, as it started to take off and it started to work, then everybody said, "We always knew it would work out, there's no problem." Everybody changes their tune. And now in my situation, I think I've been doing it long enough for people to realize that it is a proper career. I'm going to be here for the long haul. And I do have the support of my wife, my kids, my family around me that understand that this is my passion and my work. And without that kind of support, it would be incredibly difficult. But my industry and my work is really the hub of the family. It puts food on the table. It's what we're all based around. So it's meaningful for all of us. I think there's a network around you, but it's not just about me. I have to support my wife as well. If I have to go away and travel for a long period of time, or I'm working for a long period of time, we all have to pull together. It is important, yes.
Yeah, and I think like every intense job, you will never fit into a normal life. Like 9-to-5 job is easy, and all you can meet with your friends, you can have your family times, and blah blah blah. So if your job does not fit into this, which obviously is the case in everybody's life here, you need support and understanding from family, from friends, because also their life changed.
Yeah.
If I want to meet with my best friend, it will take most likely 1 or 2 years, because he also has an intense job with complete different branch. Everything is different, and if he would not understand, or I would not understand him, it wouldn't be a friendship anymore. It couldn't work as a friendship. So the understanding is what I think the most important part of it. And if you are struggling, then it really helps if you have some people who say, "No, go, it's a good idea."
Yeah, I think it somehow might be a problem that you are super passionate about what you're doing, are super into your jobs and spend a lot of time with it, but your family or friends are not passionate about what you're doing. They are passionate about your friendship somehow, something like that.
My son doesn't have a driver's license. Does it explain enough?
See,
it's completely different.
Do you have a problem with that?
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, yes.
Because you can't drink.
Exactly. That's why I have a daughter who's younger, and she's starting the license now. So there's a backup plan.
I can second that with the understanding being the most important part, because if that's not there, then you will get into conflict over and over again. And for me, it's just in that sense, it's also important that my girlfriend just has hobbies on her own and can spend that time that I don't have in a different way.
So you always have to find a way to figure it out with your nearest persons around somehow. Okay. has it been the case that at some point your former hobby, now job, has been so intense and so exhausting that you somehow didn't like the hobby anymore? You know what I mean? Like got a little bit, I don't know, tired of sim racing or what you loved so much before? Steve, I see you.
I would say that always happens. Things never completely flatline, but there are highs and lows always. And there's a period for me where I was working on a particular motorsport in F1 and working hard to get each year's game out. And that inevitably takes a toll on your interest in doing that when you get home. Because the window of being home and having a life outside of work becomes more and more narrow. Mm-hmm. And so you can't face doing the same thing when you get home. Although in our day jobs, for the most part, it's not always the same as your home life and use of the hobby. I might have been a developer, but then if sim racing is my hobby when I'm at home, I don't necessarily have the energy to focus and have the commitment on something, but your interest remains. So, being part of sim racing doesn't always have to be being a driver where you have to be on it all of the time, but you can live in that world and still get joy from it. So many people now, the big difference is I see people going, I want to be a commentator, I want to get into broadcast, I want to be the engineer, I want to be the team manager. So there's so many things around sim racing that I consider to be my hobby that don't require you to put enormous amounts of energy and practice in the same way as you would a driver before an event. And I think that means that your interest remains alive, but you don't always participate in the periods where you're really, really busy.
Okay, I get it. Boris,
yeah, that's absolutely true. And also, for me, it was already often the case, especially when you are working on something, on a project or on an event or whatever, and you have deadlines and you have things that you have to deliver to some specific point, then and it gets closer to it, and you see yourself struggling, and you start to fear that you cannot make it somehow. And at this point, it starts to get sometimes annoying, I would say, and you would say, "Oh, why I did this? Why, why I put this pressure on myself?" And this I had already quite a few times. But when it's working, or when you somehow do it, and maybe with help from others or something, after it you are happy again that you did it, and the things you forget really fast.
So at some point you have to just push through somehow.
Exactly.
Okay. How's your perception?
Yeah, it happens all the time. It just comes in waves, right? Sometimes you love it, particularly when you win races. It gets more ugly when you're not winning races for whatever reason. Usually you blame the BOP, which is just a thing in the GT3 racing we do all over sim racing. Mm-hmm. That's probably the tough times, and then the amount of work you have to put in for incremental gains, if at all. That can be really frustrating, and I think you need to be, especially on the driver role, you need to be thick-skinned in sim racing, because there's going to be setbacks all the time. The level in sim racing is incredibly high, much higher than in real racing. I'm convinced of that.
Because there are so many competitors coming in.
There's so many competitors, and the entry barriers are much lower. Yeah. So there's much more likely that talent actually rises to the top, not so much in real motorsports. And you're competing with, so if you have a grid of 40, you can expect 40 people to all be capable or at least interested in winning and sacrificing anything for it. And then we see this especially in F1 esports on the F1 game series, where the top 10 qualifiers are set apart by half a tenth at times. And at this point, you're pretty much out of control of your result. I wouldn't say half a tenth or something you control, you just have that lap or not. But then again, we always see the same people on top. So they just have that 100th edge on everybody else that they rely on, but you can lose a 100 really, really quickly as well. And having the energy, and it certainly doesn't work without passion, to go after that lap time again and again and again, and facing those setbacks and keep going, this I think is really underestimated. And the mental struggle, especially in this F1 esports space, where you have a lot of young people who have aspiration who might have naive hopes of where sim racing career can lead as drivers. They are under immense mental pressure to handle the situation, basically. And I don't think, I think slowly teams are starting to pick up. I enforced it in my time that I was in Red Bull Racing, that we start to work with mental coaches because it's a huge topic, but also young people need to open up to that as well. It's not like everybody's carrying their heart on their mouth, right? So it's often young men with a strong attitude, but don't really commit or admit mistakes.
I think you can like literally see that in the back in the booth over here, like how strong and big the pressure is they're under, and how much tension is in their bodies and stuff like that. And when something goes wrong, what the body language says, like, I think mental health is a strong topic there. You also wanted to say something. I interrupted you, I guess.
Busy. Yeah, the question was like if my passion turning into my job kind of was too heavy or damped the passion in it.
Exactly.
For me, explicit no. Because I'm in a comfortable position as I'm not a race driver or whatever, and I'm just a petrol head. I love racing all my life long, and if I'm too tired, I'm just watching a race. So it is another part of the same story.
But this is what you also do in your free time, and that never changed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, luckily, my kids go into their rooms. My wife now started to watch motorsport or take a second screen and watch whatever.
Okay.
Motorsport is for me everything I like. Whether it's on a normal track day, whether it's in racing, whether it's watching the sim races, or having ideas, finding new products for the Rennwelten community. Like, there's a lot to do, and if I'm fed up with one, I can thankfully shift to another.
Yeah, from my perception also, you seem really relaxed. Like, perhaps also because you're doing it for such a long time now, and really have like a certain feeling of, okay, I am somehow in my comfort zone doing this.
That's a perfect luxus to have. It can't be better if you don't separate work and life.
Okay.
Again.
Yeah. I think
so I'm relaxed, and I like it.
Congratulations to that.
Have to get there.
You're living the dream.
Obviously.
In the end, yes.
So perhaps you can tell us your secret then. But I have another follow-up question for Nils, because it just popped up in my mind. When do you think, whenever you will at some point stop your active sim racing career, will you can get back on the rig like just for fun and just like don't feel the pressure anymore or something like that? Do you have a certain feeling for that?
Yeah, I actually talked with someone about this earlier, that I would love to do more streaming, for example, also because that's the part in sim racing that can actually scale and give you a higher income. But being competitive, it's very tough to set the time aside for casual streaming because it all deducts from your practice time, which is crucial. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to do sim racing more as a hobby again after this professional side has ended. But I think there's still 1-2 years to go.
Okay.
Drive under my name will be easy as pie then.
Okay. I guess I have just 1 or 2 more questions, and one of them would be, what would you tell others who are aiming on or willing to make their hobby a job? Like, how did you do it? When did you realize, okay, this can be actually a thing or something? Like, at what point should you make the decision or follow a path? Do you have an idea or have something there? Steve?
It's probably easier to reach out to people today than it was back in my day when everything was black and white. Now you can, follow people on social, you can reach out to them. My biggest piece of advice would probably be, look at who you're following in this industry that are doing the kind of things that you're interested in, and just try reaching out to them. Like, ask them for advice on where they could start, because these people have got connections, and we've all been there where we've had to start out. Lots of people in sim racing in particular, I would argue, are very willing to help and give you a piece of advice. It doesn't mean that necessarily we can just hire you and give you the easy start in your industry. I wish we all could, but we're all struggling in our different ways. But we're willing to kind of connect you and give you advice. The best thing is to ask. If you don't ask and you don't try, then it's really not just going to come to your door. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a struggle, but just reach out and ask.
If I was...
Sorry, and do it quickly because we don't know how long we have Twitter still.
Yeah, that's
good
also
point.
Definitely good point. If I was a young sim racer or super interested in sim racing, and I'm just I don't know, a bit anxious about approaching somebody because I feel like I'm probably not good enough, but I know I'm passionate, but I don't really have a lot of things to on my plate, you know, to just show or to prove that I'm good enough to make a career in sim racing, not only as a racer but in something else. Could I even then like approach you and like try to talk to you, or would you laugh at me?
Well, I wouldn't laugh at anybody that did that. That you have to be brave, I think, to walk up to somebody. But I never started out with a huge amount of confidence. I had confidence in myself, but I would hate to be on a stage like this, for example, let alone walk up to somebody and kind of, you know, cold introduce myself. But what I'm suggesting is it's easier to reach out to people online. And many of the people that I've hired over the last, you know, many years have been very quiet individuals who turned out to be incredibly talented and switched on. But they didn't necessarily want to, you know, embarrass themselves by coming up to me and just introducing themselves. But they would email or get through social or contact somebody that I knew. And there's plenty of different approaches depending on your own personality.
Mm-hmm. Talking about braveness, Boris might be also a good person to tell.
Yeah. I think the main thing is if you want to reach something, if you have something in your mind what you want to make, then best thing is just do it. You know, it may sound stupid, but it is like exactly like this. You have to believe in yourself and just do it.
As Steve said, like even though many people might say, "Are you crazy?" Just follow your dreams somehow.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Why you do this? You are crazy. This will not work. Get a normal job," you know. But no, just do it. Believe in yourself. Believe in the thing what you want to do and what you want to reach, and then keep going.
Mm. What would you add?
I don't know. I'm not that much of an American dream storyteller, so I try to keep it more realistic. In the end, you won't know if you fail or succeed in this, and I guess there's a probably statistically 80-90% chance that any endeavor will fail, and then you just do the next again. It just depends what kind of person you are, and if you are ready to live with, well, a more risky, more unsecure future ahead of you, or not knowing the future at all. So this is a bit of a personality thing. If this is your route, I mean, at the end you can be very relaxed like him if it all works out. And then you did the perfect calls, but there will be issues on the way most likely. And the younger you are, the less you know of the industry, the more likely it is your first idea has either been there already or is simply out of touch with the scene, for example. So the best you can do is get involved. And the more you get involved, the easier it will become to see the blank spots that nobody has thought of so far. And maybe then you can start to develop a business idea around that. So I'm all for thinking business first before diving into the platform development, for example. But of course, in hindsight, that's very easy. So sometimes you come from one direction, you want to start a business. Sometimes you come from the other direction, you start with passion, and then suddenly it turns out to be a financial opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not relaxed because everything worked out. It's exactly the other way around. Like, everything messed up I did already, yeah? I had everything going wrong, and I thought, okay, you learned one simple thing. It's your life. You can change whatever you want to change, and you can do whatever you want to. And based to the question, how do I ask people? Just go there and ask. Like, I was working with a sales guy, and he was telling me this one simple sentence. A no, you have for sure. A yes, a maybe. So always ask, and the worst thing that could happen would be, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work with you, and so what? And yes, So go on, and if you try to, it will work out someday, maybe. Hopefully.
So many super interesting insights and tips, I guess. Like, especially like a no you have for sure. You can get a yes maybe, and also like if it doesn't work out, you said that if it doesn't work out, try another thing. Why not? If you're passionate about it, there will be a lot of things you will like maybe be able to think of. Super nice. So last question. What's your personal next thing to reach, to, I don't know, head for? First, we can start with you.
We definitely want to raise Rennwelten to the community who changes the game in motorsports. Game changing means for me, like, motorsports was always, as you mentioned before, an elite thing. Like, you have the connections and or the budget, then you may be a motorsport racer. And I think sim racing can completely change it and make it to an open racing for everyone. And that's our main goal and our vision in Rennwelten, to open it up as much as possible and not caring about real racing or sim racing. Like in German, it's real, digital, scheißegal. That's our claim. And yes, working on that one.
Well, for me, it's certainly about scaling the small business that we started, which is around telemetry and setups. It's not a brand new idea. It's all been there before, but we think we do it a tiny bit different. And especially getting into the B2B space with that, because that's where it really gets serious, bigger deals. You get a bigger footprint into the industry. And then I think that one big thought I always have, which is probably looming on the horizon maybe 10, 15 years or so, would be what sim racing is actually simulating once there are no cars.
Good.
Yeah. For me, it's we will slowly grow the platform further and see where it will take us. And I'm not a person who plans so much in the future. I just take it as it is and make the best out of it. So just grow it slowly. Maybe also do some B2B stuff and see where it takes us.
Steve?
As a developer for most of my career, I think I've always been frustrated that most sim developers and game developers don't have enough time to consider the community. It's a big piece that's always been left by the side. And at SimGrid, I think the key thing that we're trying to do is ensure that community can interface much better with the different sim platforms that are out there in a frictionless manner. And by that I mean make it easier to become involved. Like when you become time poor because you're busy or you have a different career or it's so hard to start out, how do we connect you much easier with the community so that you're enjoying sim racing? It doesn't always have to be about number one, but you want to be involved in a community and enjoy what is a wonderful hobby. And that's what we're trying to bring to the fore. And there's still some distance to go, but I'm still super passionate about it.
It's so good to see that. Also, so good to be on stage with like 4 people who seem to be very happy in their lives. And I thank you for your insights, for your hints and everything. It was really nice talking to you. Hopefully also for the audience. And for you in the stream, I really enjoyed it having you around. And feel free to approach those guys or anybody else you feel like could help you in your career or making your dreams come true. That's my little piece of advice, if it is. And now we have still a race going on, so we're heading back to Paul and Alex. Have fun there.